Okay. So let's establish where we've got so far. There is credible historical evidence and data for a literal Jesus living in the first century who healed, who performed exorcisms, who died on the cross, was buried, and the tomb was found empty. He referred to himself as the Son of Man, and he self-identified as the Son of Man. And I just want to take this now one step further, because somebody might turn around and say, well, Jesus just thought of himself not as the Daniel figure, but just as like Ezekiel, or as a son of God like, or a son of man like Adam was. So can we take that one step further? Did Jesus himself actually believe that he was the divine Son of God, God incarnate? And if so, what evidence do we have for Jesus's self-identity from Scripture?
Yep. Well, if we could roll out some of the things I've already put on the table and just come back and emphasize a couple.
Yeah.
So Son of Man can mean one of three things: a mere man, a prophet, or this pre-existent figure who's acting on God's behalf. And by the way, the book of Daniel itself, Daniel 7, ends with the comment that he will be served. This Son of Man will be served. In some translations, that word is translated worshipped. And you go back and you look it up and it says, no, it says served. But here's the issue. In the Greek Old Testament, the Septuagint, in the Greek Old Testament, that word is latruo. Latruo is used over 100 times. And every single time except I think once, it is, it's serving, but he's served in a worship context. It's a temple word, and it's used in a temple context. So back to Daniel 7, that Son of Man, pre-existent Son of Man, is served in a sense of serving a divine figure. Okay, so Daniel is a Jewish book. By that I mean before you ever get to the first gospel, it's a Jewish book. The Son of Man is very specific and exalted. How do we know Jesus tapped into the Daniel Son of Man and not the Ezekiel or the Psalm Son of Man? Yeah. Okay, here's the reason. Twice he paraphrases the Daniel 7 passage and applies it to himself. And one of these two times is the one I just mentioned, before the high priest, which I think Mark 14, 61 to 64, I think it's the clearest self-identification that we have of Jesus in the Gospels. If someone said, what's the best verse? I wouldn't. So many Christians go to John 8:58, before Abraham was, I am. John 10:30, I and the Father are one. You know, not only is that the latest gospel, you're okay using John. It's still early for historiography. But not only are you using the latest gospel, both those verses to me are they need a little bit of explanation. Remember, the Jewish hearers thought, how can before Abraham was? You're not even 50 years old. So they missed his point. I and the Father are one. All right, some people tried to stone him there, but Jesus had already said a husband and wife are one. So in what sense are you meaning this? But in Mark 14, 61 to 64, are you the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One, the Son of God? Jesus says, I am. He changes the subject to Son of Man, says the Son of Man, coming on the clouds, seated on the right hand of God. And I could just see the response. Every time got to a higher crescendo of anger. Yeah. And finally, now I say anger, I don't mean craziness. I mean ceremonial anger. I mean the kind that makes you rip your clothes and say, ha, you've gone over the line. You've gone over, I got you. Because the high priest turns to the crowd, I mean, not the crowd, but the group of elders, and says, what should we do? Has he committed blasphemy? And they say, yeah, he's committed blasphemy. Now, I want to be really, really clear. I am not speaking against the Jewish people, quote unquote, or the Jewish people killed Jesus. No. Or I just saw this in print recently where they said, we're being called Christ killers. Not at all. I'm only talking about an historical framework of what happened. If Rome hadn't been the main culprit, Jesus wouldn't have been crucified, because the Jews didn't crucify. They stoned.
Right. That's right.
So the fact that he was crucified shows, without even the thing about Pilate and Herod, without even those accounts, it was a Roman decision to crucify.
Yes.
So, Jesus might have been getting a little bit too hot for them, a little bit too hot to handle in whatever terms. But it's plain that when Jesus cites that phrase, Christ, 2, Son of God, 3, Son of Man, 4, coming on the clouds, 5, seated on God's right hand, it's like the high priest is saying, dude, you've gone way over the line on this one. Let's just stop right there, because I think you've sealed your own fate. What do y'all think? Yeah, blasphemy. All right, over. I think that's what happened. But to your direct question, he paraphrases Daniel 7 there, and he paraphrases Daniel 7 one other time. So it's clear to us what he means by Son of Man.